What's good, YouTube? C1 Matt, back with another video, back with another reaction. Back on the infographics show. Shout out to them and all their facts and knowledges that I continue to learn. Whether y'all see me react to it or not, link to their channel is going to be in the description box below. Excuse me. Today, we're going to dig into the modern science direction, and we're going to sit here and see what common facts are actually deadly. I'm curious about what it is. I'm curious about if it's something that I know already or it's some new things. I'm always open to learn new things, yeah? You know? So, without further ado, let's get into it.
You won't actually get a cramp if you swim right after eating. You almost definitely heard this at some point as a kid. Wait 30 minutes after eating before swimming or you'll get a stomach cramp and maybe even drown. You're about as likely to actually drown from a post-meal cramp as you are to have a great white shark swim up and eat you whole. There is literally no scientific evidence that you'll get a cramp if you eat after swimming. Just don't eat while you're swimming or you'll mess up your sandwich in the pool. But there's an even more harmful myth about medical effects of your food. Number 18. Eating fat won't make you fat. This is a perfect example of how something that sounds totally logical can be completely wrong. The only thing that will actually make you fat is your body taking in more calories than you actually use. Not only is staying away from fat as a food group silly, it can actually make your health worse. Without enough fat, you can suffer from hair loss, skin issues, wounds will heal slower, and you'll get sick way more often. Number 17. The old lady who sued McDonald's for hot coffee was in the right. 90s kids will remember this one. In 1994, a woman sued McDonald's for making their coffee too hot. She became a total laughingstock, an avatar for greedy, overly litigious people trying to get a handout for the dumbest reasons. It turns out 79-year-old Stella Liebeck was seriously burned when she was handed near boiling coffee at a McDonald's drive-thru in 1992. The volcanic coffee spilled onto her lap, giving her third-degree burns on her legs and genitals. We'll give you a second to wince. Poor Stella was nearly killed, but we all just wrote her off as a joke because America is sometimes way quicker to defend actions hurt. Number 16. There won't ever be a cure for cancer. Okay, Big Pharma doesn't have one, and they are not keeping it in a lockbox in a basement somewhere. We're sure that they would if they could. But to think of cancer in terms of a cure shows simply a misunderstanding of what it really is. Cancer is an umbrella term for a huge number of illnesses, and different cases will require different treatments. More effective treatments will be developed with time and research, but the idea that there will ever be a one-size-fits-all cure is just missing the point. Here's one that you never expected. Number 15.
So, I get this, right? We all want a cure for cancer, but cancer is not universally one thing. Like the cancer in your arm versus your lungs versus your leg versus your immune system, they're all different types of cancer, right? It's just easier to category to put them in a group where all of it is lethal, right? Because there's all different types of weapons, right? And this is my metaphor towards it, or analogy, but you wouldn't call a pistol a shotgun. Does that make sense? But it's a weapon. But there's different types of weapons. Feel me? Cool.
15. Cats should not drink milk. All the cartoons we watched as a kid were lying to us. They want you to believe that a cat and a saucer full of milk is a match made in heaven, but the reality could not be further from the truth. While they may like some milk as a kitten, as cats grow up, they lose the enzyme in their body that allows them to digest milk. So if you give adult cats milk, you're likely going to have to deal with them puking, pooping, and farting everywhere. Don't say we didn't warn you. But it isn't just animals that fall victim to myths about their biology. It sure seems like there's tons of myths out there, but don't worry, we've got the receipts. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And maybe stop believing your weird uncle for once. Number 14. Napoleon was not short. Your average person probably knows two things about Napoleon Bonaparte with any degree of confidence. He was French and he was short. It is so ingrained into our cultural consciousness that when we think of a guy who feels like he's got something to prove because he's on the smaller side, we say he's got a Napoleon complex. But here's the thing, Napoleon was actually average in height for the time, around 5 foot 7 inches. There are two reasons we often think of him as short. First, he was surrounded by soldiers who were likely taller than average. Second, because English propaganda tried its best to portray him as short to undermine his authority. And hey, clearly it was some pretty good propaganda, seeing as people still believe this today. But not you. Now you know. Number 13.
It just goes to show that the things you hear about as a child, as yourself, the things that you even see in articles, deep dive and do your homework to really see how much fact that you can get out of it. You know?
Having OCD doesn't mean being a neat freak. This is yet another one that we have movies, TV, and popular culture to blame. You've probably heard someone say, "Oh, I'm so OCD," about staying organized. Or you've seen both detectives and master criminals in media that had OCD, living in immaculate, fastidious, detail-oriented lives. That might be true for some people with OCD, but it massively flattens the reality. The acronym, after all, stands for Obsessive Compulsive Disorder, and it means that a person will experience repeated, intrusive thought patterns that they have little to no control over. They develop rituals that they compulsively perform as a coping mechanism to reduce anxiety. It has nothing to do with being an extremely tidy person as a matter of course. Henry, the overworked and emotionally dead writer behind this script, actually has OCD. And I've seen his apartment, it looks like a dump. But this is actually nowhere near the most dangerous myth when it comes to the way people's brains work. That one would be number 12. You're not actually eating a bloody steak. If you've ever been at a steakhouse and you've done the right thing, you ordered your steak medium rare, you probably cut into it and felt like a total carnivore as the blood pooled on your plate. But that liquid isn't actually blood, even though it might seem like it. It's actually a mix of water and myoglobin, a common muscle protein. And this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to misconceptions about food and eating. Number 11. Shaving does not.
Yo, I start eating steak. I'm getting that medium rare. I gotta try it. I've sat here and saw what a well done steak look like from a person eating it. I don't want it. Yes. Do I want my pork chop cooked? Sure. Steak though? There's too many other benefits from it. I already did my homework.
To make your hair grow back thicker.
Shaving doesn't make your hair grow back thicker
Or
or
faster. This is one of those weird truisms that you suddenly start to hear as soon as you hit puberty. If you're shaving, whether it's your face or your legs, expect that crop to grow back faster and meaner next time. Not only is this not true, it was actually debunked in a clinical study almost a century ago in 1928. The truth is, it's likely just an optical illusion, where you see the base of your hairs during regrowth, which appears coarser and rougher than the tips you usually see. Number 10. Cracking your knuckles won't give you arthritis. Much like touching baby birds, this is another one of those classic old wives' tales that was likely thought up to just stop you being annoying as a kid. Nobody likes hearing other people crack their knuckles, especially if you work for the mafia and are here to collect somebody's debt. But categorically, it will not give you arthritis. That cracking sound, it's just bubbles popping in your synovial fluid. That's the stuff that keeps your joints moving smoothly. So the next time someone tries to trick you with this one, crack your knuckles menacingly at them in response. Number 9. Gum won't hang out in your stomach for 7 years. Even saying this one out loud kind of makes you realize just how dumb it sounds. And why 7 years specifically, like it's some kind of witch's curse. Sure, some parts of gum can't be digested, but if everything indigestible just stayed in your stomach, we would turn into human storage lockers and die from blockages or infections. The parts of gum that you can't digest just leave your body in your poop, rather than taking up permanent residence. That doesn't mean that some of the things you put into your body can't hurt you though, even if you do it with the best of intentions. Number 8. The hair of the dog just kicks the can down the road. It seems like if you ask anybody of a certain age about a night of partying a little too hard, they'll have their very own recipe for the perfect hangover cure, probably one handed down through generations of binge drinkers and sesh heads. But one of the absolute classics you'll hear is hair of the dog that bit you. That means drinking a little bit of the booze that you were smashing the previous night to help reduce the effects of your hangover. But when you really think about it, that advice is actually just, you never get hungover if you stay drunk. All the hair of the dog really does is delay the effects of your hangover. In fact, it'll probably just make them worse when they eventually do turn up. Just drink a bunch of water, have a hearty breakfast, and sleep it off instead. Of course, this is far from the only piece of homespun generational health advice that'll lead you down the wrong path, like number 7. No, staring at the TV isn't gonna make you go blind. This is one that 90s and 2000s kids probably heard a lot before every child started developing a symbiotic cyborg relationship with the family iPad. But if you were one of those kids who grew up sitting an inch away from Pokemon and Power Rangers all your childhood, don't worry, it won't have any lasting impact on the health or sharpness of your vision. At most, your eyes might get a little tired and itchy from overuse, but that'll go away pretty quickly next time you rest your eyes. Number 6. Don't ever pee on a jellyfish sting. This is one of those weird myths that we can only assume was invented by a
Yo, the amount of times that people ask me to do this, or the amount of times, the few times I've actually done it. Wow. Yikes. Damn. Oh, shit.
pervert. If your buddy gets stung by a jellyfish, the last thing you should be doing is urinating on them. A jellyfish tentacle is essentially covered in thousands of tiny venom-coated harpoons that fire off into the body to deliver a sting that can range from painful to outright lethal on contact. The actual advice is to try to remove the stings without getting stung yourself, rinse the area with vinegar, and then get the affected person to the hospital as soon as humanly possible. Peeing on them will not only be gross and useless, it'll actively make things worse. Tests have shown that peeing on jellyfish stings can actually increase the venomous response by creating a new chemical imbalance. And do you really want to be the person who whizzed their friend to death on a beach? How's that eulogy gonna play out? Here's another common misconception.
Wow. That is, wow. Fuck. I ain't gonna lie. Damn, I just found out about that today. But then the crazy part is, when you're at the beach, right? Who is thinking about bringing vinegar anywhere near the beach? Or a restaurant or anything of a sort with vinegar in it? It's never near the beach. So rushing to the hospital, it's like you might as well just take vinegar with you. A small bottle of vinegar with you to the beach. That's the only way you're going to have access to it right away that I'm aware of. And most beaches I've traveled to. Or is it, am I crazy with things like that? Damn, that's wild. That's wild, dog.
Number 5. No, you don't eat a bunch of spiders each year in your sleep. It's often been repeated as a weird little the more you know factoid that you actually accidentally eat 8 spiders a year in your sleep. Those little 8-legged vororophiliacs just love to climb inside human mouths to meet their doom. But that's all wrong. Bill Shear, a biology professor at Hampton-Sydney College in Virginia and former president of the American Arachnological Society, has said, quote, "Spiders regard us much like they'd regard a big rock. We're so large that we're really just part of the landscape. A sleeping person is not something a spider would willingly approach." And if you're not gonna believe that from a spider expert, well, there's no helping you. Enjoy your imaginary spider supper. Number 4.
This is one I didn't wanted to hear or wish to hear.
4. Serial killers are not masters of charm. It's something that you see in the movies and TV all the time. Nobody knows how to manipulate like a murderous psychopath. They have an incredible charm that could talk even the most reasonable people into a state of vulnerability and then lure them back into a secluded place to murder them. Look at Ted Bundy. Everyone says that guy just oozed charm, and it's how he was able to effortlessly pick up so many victims. But of course, that's not true, is it? It's another invention of movies to make killers look a lot more intelligent and suave than they are. Ted Bundy actually got so many victims using sleazy pickup artist tactics. While wearing a fake cast, he'd hit up dozens of women to help him out, and most of the time, these women said no, finding him creepy and off-putting. He was simply able to find as many victims as he did by keeping at it until someone eventually said yes. Number 3.
Boy, shooting up
Sex
shots
doesn't
like
make vaginas permanently looser. You probably heard this one if you have a friend, or more likely an acquaintance, who listens to those weird alpha male podcasts. You know, the ones hosted by guys with active warrants out for their arrests? Because, like mythological vampires, they've got a weird obsession with virgins. They'll justify that by saying that it's because sex is less pleasurable with a woman who's had sex more times because it'll mean her vagina is looser. That is absolute, complete nonsense, much like everything else those guys say. The vagina is a muscle that can contract and relax. During and straight after the act of sexual intercourse, it relaxes to make sex an easier and more pleasurable time. But not long after sex, the vagina will return to its baseline shape and size. Anyone who will tell you otherwise has clearly never actually interfaced with one. Number 2. A lot.
Hold up. So here's what I'm gonna say on this. It is true. However, everybody's level of where it goes back to is different. And just me. If it was so much so that every woman snapped back the same way, then it wouldn't even matter who I was with, because I would get the same results regardless. But that's not going to be the case. Just by feeling. Some people, some women are built that they prefer and their muscles relax or bigger. There might be some issues where they might not have taken care of themselves, and for that reason, it might feel looser or this, that, and the other. You know, not everybody has the most pristine or routine care. So you got to give all of those factors in there, right? But yeah, some people feel way different. And it just comes down to how much they relax, I suppose, or attraction and all that stuff, you know? So, okay. Make it a judge.
A lot of body language experts are actually complete frauds. You've seen these guys all over YouTube and the podcast sphere. Some will claim that they're psychologists, some will say they're ex-law enforcement or CIA. They all claim to have Sherlock Holmes-level skills at reading people from the tiniest behaviors. But most of the time, they're about as reliable as a palm or tarot card reader, dressed up with a thin layer of pseudoscience. It goes without saying that nonverbal cues are an extremely important part of human communication. But what those cues mean is highly situational, cultural, and personal. If you read enough studies, you'll often find too many of the so-called rules are utterly contradictory. It can be a neat little party trick, but the second you're risking people getting locked away because of what some bald guy says about how they move their eyebrows, the misinformation goes from goofy to straight up dangerous. Do not trust these people. Number 1. You're remembering a lot of famous movie quotes wrong. This is kind of a silly one, but it'll probably still blow your mind. Due to the fallibility of human memory, details get all jumbled up when we recall them, so a lot of the times we end up accidentally misquoting when we reel off some of our favorite movie lines. Darth Vader never said, "Luke, I am your father." He said, "No, I am your father." Betty Davis never said, "Fasten your seatbelts, it's gonna be a bumpy ride." She said, "Fasten your seatbelts, it's gonna be a bumpy night." The evil queen from Snow White never said, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" She said, "Magic mirror on the wall, who's the fairest one of all." And in Jaws, Chief Brody never said, "We're gonna need a bigger boat." He said, "You're gonna need a bigger boat." Feel free to list any of your other favorites down in the comment section. We mentioned earlier that there's a lot of lies surrounding food, but there is a whole lot more to it. Watch You've Been Poisoned by
Damn, chat. Learned a little bit more today. I mean, there's some. Wow. Damn. All right. Hey. Wow. Okay. Gotta think back on some of this stuff. It helps me a good bit. I'm gonna perceive things a lot differently. It is going to be looking at some more stuff more too. Huh. If there's some more that y'all know about that's not so true, Leave them in the comment section down below. Till next time. Till next video. Peace, y'all.